really nothing that you can check what happened, when you submitted a proposal. So if there's anything afterwards, there's a lack of transparency there. On the part of the granting body, it's quite similar. They have difficulty finding the correct SMEs to fund. Also, long due diligence process when they're checking who is this SME they're funding. And on top of that, they can spend up to 10% of the funds to manage the funds allocation. So these are some of the things that we were trying to address with our use case. And what were the use case objectives? So both for the granting body and the applicant, these are the use case objectives. So we're going to improve transparency for both parties, trying to create better efficiency so that they don't spend so much time in the actual overall process. We want to improve the user experience to make the whole thing a little bit more seamless and easier for both granting body or applicant, increase privacy, and ultimately also cost reduction. So these were our use case objectives. So what did we develop? And the outcome of our use case is an application called OnePass. You can get to the website here from the start. Welcome to have a look. And what we're trying to do is create a OnePass so that you create your profile and create a fundraising profile, and then one-click apply to an opportunity. So this was the goal for the SME. The journey in OnePass, both for the granting body and also for the startup, starts with creating their profile. So they create a user profile, and then they create an organization. Sorry, I don't. Okay. And then they go ahead and create an organization profile. When we created this, because we were focused also on making the user experience as good as we possibly could, there's a wizard for helping an organization to go through the whole process of creating their profile. Is that okay? So this is, I'm just going to step you through the journey for the startup, how it looks for them. So they go by creating a login. Then they can create an organization and complete their profile. And when they have completed their profile, that gives them access to an opportunities marketplace. And also they can publish their profile so that they can showcase their company or their startup in front of investors and scale-ups. And this is just another screenshot of the actual fundraising profile page. So here you can see they can add information about the history of the company. What funding have they received in the past, their pitch, their plan, anything about the team. So the more information that they put in here, the better opportunity they have to be matched or to find funding investors or funding opportunities in the future. They can also enter legal information and anything about their profile. So the idea is that when they enter this information, they don't have to enter it again every time they apply to funding. They can reuse this information over and over. And then applying to an opportunity. This is the flow that a startup would go through when applying. They can either match with a relevant opportunity, get an invite to apply to an opportunity, or have a look at the available opportunities within the opportunity marketplace. Once they select an opportunity, they can go and view the details of it, and then they can go and apply with their profile data. We also have the option in there that you can customize an application form. So if more information is required by the funding body from the startup, more information that's in their profile, they can add it here. And then finally, they can receive a verifiable credential to prove that they were a verified applicant within this program. So it's a very simple flow from finding an opportunity to actually applying. On top of that, they also have access to training resources. So within the OnePass application, there's a list of training that's available to the startup. Once they access the, okay. Thank you. Once they access, it seems to be turned off.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Perdón. Now it's working.
Hello, okay. So I was saying that they can also access training resources. So within the OnePass application, they can see training that's suitable for them, access the training campus, complete the training, and then afterwards they can receive a verifiable credential from the training provider, which can be stored in their profile. So like I was saying, on the other hand, we have two different types of users who will benefit from the application. On the one side, we have the startup and SME, and on the other side, we have the granting body. So the purpose of the application for the granting body is to manage the application, what we call the application tracking system. So for granting bodies who are providing funding can use this application to manage the whole process from looking for applicants to finally selecting applicants. So here I'll show you the workflow that as it appears in the application. You can manage all of your applications. You can launch an application. We have the ability to pre-filter applications based on eligibility criteria. So you can say what is the eligibility criteria that you need in order to select these applicants for your funding application. This can be maybe country, or it could be the size of the company, etc. Whatever it is that the eligibility criteria. After that, you can allow the applicants to apply with their profile, so just the profile of their OnePass account, or you can ask additional questions, or as I have here, you can allow them to apply directly within your website or your application tracking system if you have your own one already. We call that Apply with OnePass, which I'll show you a little bit later. And if you do manage the application tracking system within OnePass, you have this option to track the different stages of the application process. So this can be customized to whatever process that you have within your funding application. So here you can see drafts submitted, accepted or rejected. So whatever is the process, you can manage it within here. Finally, you can issue a credential to a beneficiary. So this can be a beneficiary who has been successful, or a beneficiary who you're identifying as a valid applicant. This is just a more of a close-up screenshot of the application tracking system. So here you can see the information of the open call. You can see the applications that you're receiving, and then you can go into a little bit more detail. So you can see the edit history. So you can see the edits of the particular application. And this is an additional feature that we're
the mic stopped working.
Hello? Okay, it's back. What? I use this one? Okay. So we have an additional feature which is called the OnePass deal room, or digital deal room. And the purpose of this is that when you get to the stage where an applicant has been successful, we have this area where it's like the post selection stage, where you can manage deals, you can manage the transfer of documents securely between the funding provider and the SME. So everything can be managed in this area. Okay, apply with OnePass. So we have two options with OnePass. One is that the funding body can go into the application and that they can manage everything, launch an opportunity from within OnePass, or they have the other option where if they have their own existing application tracking system, they can use the Apply with OnePass. So what that means is that they can have a button on their website or their application system, and the applicant can apply directly by clicking on that button, Apply with OnePass. What that does is it takes all of the information within the applicant's profile and transports it into the external third-party application. So it's the Apply with OnePass. So as I'm running out of time, lessons learned so far. One of the things that we learned at the beginning when we were designing this is that the standardization of data for open calls is not so easy. What that means is that our initial plan was to make it really simple that all of the data they have in their profile could be used when they're applying to an opportunity. For public funding, it's a little bit different in that the process can be different for each project. In that case, we had to design a custom application to add additional questions. That was a learning that we had along the way. Also, that it's a little bit difficult to find early adopters to implement this solution. What I mean is getting public funding bodies to implement the apply with or to launch an opportunity within the OnePass application. Also, we have found that private interest is a little bit greater than public. So from all of the webinars and dissemination that we've done, we get a lot of interest from private companies in this solution, more so than public. So that's something we need to dive into a little bit further. One of the things that we also want is to make this a real user-friendly product. And from our first pilot, we got feedback from the users. So we ran a pilot for 3 months from March to June. And the feedback from users was that 80% of them found it really easy to use. So it seems we're on the right track with the user experience. Scaling, so what we're doing next, we're testing it ongoing. So it's used at the moment in a Horizon 2020 project called Smart for All. We'll be adding more open calls this year so that applicants can apply through the OnePass application. And we also have another project called Beyond, which is more to do with private investment. One of my colleagues is going to talk about that in a session later today. So OnePass will be a core in that particular project. If you want to request a demo, you can just scan this QR code and we can provide you a demo of the application and how it works. Okay, that's it from me.
Thank you, Linda. So, could we have Kostas Glikos to present the next use case, please?
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Konstantinos Glikos and I will present transparent management of public accounts. It is a use case on which work CERT ITI and Municipality of Katerini. The Greek pilot is being developed by CERT ITI and Municipality of Katerini and focuses on cost and time savings for the Greek public procurement system through a blockchain-enabled collaborative platform. More precisely, the platform will facilitate and speed up the work of the civil servants, facilitate the procurement and the voting processes for both civil servants and citizens, and engage citizens' participation in governance activities. Regarding public procurement scenario, POC2 will emphasize its efforts in the public procurement sub-use case in order to create a robust and interoperable digitalized procurement system. The system will be focused on providing efficiency, cost reduction, and legal compliance, as well as fraud and corruption elimination. Procurements are being initiated, supervised, and handled by different units, and there is a need for effective collaboration between departments to make a public procurement successful. Within this scenario, the distinct steps of a direct assignment procurement procedure will be mainly targeted, so as to be part of a blockchain-powered methodology. It can be seen as a red tape procedure due to the many actors being involved in the multiple steps that are required. As such, in many cases, it can be discouraging for procurers to get involved and face the uncertainty that undermines the whole procedure. Regarding the voting scenario, as in many procurement procedures, it is binding by the Greek law to support the decision-making in respect to budget allocation, scope, etc., with citizen participatory procedures. As such, within the scope of POC2, any voting sub-use case will be implemented so as to enable citizens to vote for specific areas to spend the municipality's budget, for example, culture, infrastructure, education, well-being, etc., and to vote for citizen-suggested subjects, such as concrete proposals. So, this is the current status in Greek municipalities before the book implementation. So there are problems such as time-consuming and error-prone work involved around procurement, fragmented process, limited use of technology, communication problems among civil servants and departments, lack of transparency about timeline, procedures, requirements, fund allocation, and limited citizen participation in decision-making processes. So the expected benefits from the implementation of our use cases are to increase transparency, to increase participatory decision-making, to increase social trust, an audit trail, actions will be authorized, secure communication channels, and saving cost time. This is the architecture of procurement scenario. We can see the main actors, which are the municipality and the professionals and the policymakers. And we can see the role of blockchain as well, because we use SSI, Self-Sovereign Identity Service, and smart contracts. This is the architecture of e-voting. We use SSI and smart contracts as well, and the main actors are municipality and citizens. And the policymakers to refine their policies. So, regarding blockchain, we use already SSI and smart contracts. Regarding SSI, we will see an example in a screenshot. And regarding smart contracts, they are programs stored on a blockchain that run when predetermined conditions are met in order to increase security. So this is a page from civil servant dashboard. The civil servant can view here all the procurements and manage them. This is a page from procurer's dashboard. A procurer can view all procurements and ask for an invitation because it is direct assignment. This increases transparency because now with this implementation, procurers can be informed about new procurements in order to be able to ask for an invitation to participate. And this is from citizens' dashboard regarding e-voting. A citizen can view a poll and, for example, can choose option yes and click on submit vote. Then the citizen must scan this QR code in order to prove that his or her verifiable credential is still valid in order to be able to vote for this poll. And finally, the citizen can view the results of a finished poll. We have presented some screenshots from our book. Our book is already in pilot phase. We have implemented version 1, and you can ask for a demo from the token page. That was my presentation. Book 3 follows. Yours.
Thanks. Is this one working still? Okay, Johannes asked me to not spill water on your computer, so I'll do it here. Okay, hi, good day everyone. Also good day everybody who's joining online. I need a clicker to move forward. Yes, my name is Joris Fink, work at IMEC, and I'll today brief you a bit on our use case, which goes about completely different thing, which goes about last mile logistics and the emergence of, or the need of, dynamic access management. Before I kick off with a short presentation, I have a short explainer video. It's brand new. You can give feedback to me afterwards, after this session. So let's start with that.
Booming urban logistics are a challenge for transporters, merchants and cities alike. Cities try to manage traffic by setting out static rules that restrict the access of logistic vehicles. They define when and where deliveries are permitted, impose fines on trespassers, but that's an imperfect solution. Enter Token. Token is an EU-funded research project. In the city of Leuven, Token has set up a test project for last-mile logistics that enables dynamic access rules. A smart portal encourages sustainable transport by replacing static rules with dynamic access. Here's how dynamic access control in Leuven works. Locally produced food is a top priority in the city's policy making. Let's say a local restaurant places an order for local products. That order is fed into the platform. After a check, the goods receive an official local goods ID. That ID is shared with transport companies. Their planners create a delivery request to the city. Because the request fits the rules for local goods set out by the city, the transporter is granted dynamic access. He can deliver the goods within a flexible and wider window of time without getting a ticket. The benefits? Local access rules are integrated in comprehensive planning systems. The administrative handling of dynamic access rights is automatized. Blockchain technology ensures the safe sharing and transfer of all data, and local authorities promote sustainable city logistics. Find out more about this and other innovative projects on the Token website.
Also, the last one is very important for us. All right. In the presentation, I'll dig a little bit deeper on the content. First of all, the use case is happening in Leuven, a small city to the right-hand side of Brussels in Belgium, where the Leuven is around 100k citizens, 50,000 students on a daily basis. The city of Leuven has high ambitions with regards to their sustainability goals. They created a roadmap towards becoming climate neutral by 2050. And in doing so, they put food for the people very high on the agenda. That meaning that local food is very important for them and they want to investigate how they can incentivize. And that's a little bit the starting point for our use case. This is a bit another view on how Leuven looks like, and the reason why this is important for you, because the purple zone here in the middle is pedestrian zone. It's not easy to access, and if you want to access it today, it would look something like this. It's an ordinary view, a medieval view of a Belgian city, and you see a couple of elements here. You see on one hand a control mechanism via ANPRs, which shields vehicles coming into the city. You have visual indication, and what is very old, this is this plate here, which indicates that if you are a logistic player, you can't be, you need to be into the city, you need to be there between 6 and 11, and otherwise you get a ticket via the camera. That causes a bit of problems. What is the problem? First of all, logistic service providers are driving half empty in and out of the city to make sure that they get their goods delivered. But it increased congestion. Secondly, logistic service providers are not rewarded for the efforts they would do to invest in sustainable measures for their company. And today the city of Leuven has limited digital tools to manage this access. So it's quite bureaucratic with a lot of administration. If we dig a little bit deeper on now what exactly, if you were to give extra access to those players, then how would it work? First of all, as a logistics player, you need to fill in a manual form with limited arguments because you need to be there, but you don't own a place over there. And secondly, it takes 3 days of processing time to get feedback from the city. I don't know who of you works in logistics, but for a planner, waiting for 3 days, that's long, you can't wait. For the city, it's manual rework also that you need to do, administrative handling, or they give you a wild card, which they claim you will evaluate. Every 6 months, it's not happening, that's what we see. And as well, it's not very democratic to other parties in the environment. So, conclusion, it's time consuming, it's not motivating for the logistic service providers, and there is also no transparency in who receives access. Long story to say, this is the problem that we want to solve, or that we try to solve within Token. What did we introduce? We introduced the dynamic access controller. It's a controlling system which can be based on various parameters that are important for the city. For example, consolidation can be a policy measure that the city wants to motivate. In our case, we took a very simple rule: is a good local or not? And if the good is local, you get extra access. And the whole process, the whole value chain, from a good being produced on the field to the delivery in a restaurant, as you saw in the movie, that has been digitized, automated, and connected. These are the partners. I will briefly go over them. It's interesting to see that we connected these parties into the ecosystem because they weren't connected before. So you have the order platform who's working with a software platform where all the orders are registered. Then you have logistics companies in the middle that are really taking out the goods. You have the whitelisting software who is really managing the access to the city, and all of that we connected within the city. We tested that technology in real life in the month of April with real goods entering into the city. And then what are the test results? Very briefly, one of the assumptions was, will it increase the service offering from the city? Yes, it did, because today the city can offer this service to its logistic service providers. Secondly, did it decrease the manual task and time? Yes, it did. 6 out of 8 steps were eliminated and automated. Did the LSP drive less kilometers? Yes, they did. Although in this case, it's still based on a very small scale pilot. Last but not least, are the LSP more motivated to move towards sustainable measures? Yes, they did. They evaluated our project or our tool as a driver in that. And then the question of trust in this system. Yes, of course, this is a very secure and tamper-proof way also for a city to use and to prove the fact that they are allowing people into their cities. Not sure how much time, but I think I'm almost done. I will not bother you this time with the architectural design of it, but maybe briefly on that 1 minute, what did we learn? We closed the gap, we connected value chain. We went for a use case first approach, which is an important driver in our digital transformation. However, we also need to acknowledge that city administrators have a learning curve ahead. And we learned also that if we think about adoption, if we think about scaling of technology, we need our commercial parties early on into the project. And with that, I will rest my case. Give it to the next. Thank you.
Thank you, Joris. Hello, good morning. My name is Laura Rodríguez de Lope, and I'm a researcher at the University of Cantabria. And I'm going to present you this use case that we have developed under the token project that has been developed between the University of Cantabria together with Santander Municipality. So in the last decade, cities has made a great investment in deploying heterogeneous sensors and network infrastructures along the cities, generating a vast amount of data. In the case of Santander, the city was pioneering in this kind of deployments, and in the city we have a huge amount of sensors which collect real-time data that later on are used by the municipality for developing services for the city and citizens. So years ago, the city of Santander took this opportunity to generate an IoT data marketplace to offer this data so that not only the municipality could use it, but also offering it to other companies or private users. So the next step that we thought that would be the good one was to foster a data business ecosystem through the integration of IoT data marketplace. This means that we would like to incentivize new stakeholders to publish their data on the marketplace, such as citizens, SMEs, municipality service providers, or other administrations, and bring new business opportunities to the city. So to do it, we need to set up a transparent solution for the valorization of the urban data. This means that we need to monitor the data usage to ensure a certain quality and integrity in the information and extract answers to the commercial interest for the data providers. And also set up service level agreement and policies that could lead in a future to smart contract executions. So this means that we have requirements of trustworthiness, authenticity and integrity that if we analyze all of them, they are covered by DLT technologies. So what we are fostering is the following. Here we can see the marketplace as it was, where the municipality publishes the data and offers for free as open data to anyone who is interested in it. So it could be to the municipality to create new services for the citizens that would like to take a look to it, or companies that after analyzing this data could have a revenue from this data. The new scenario, what we propose, is that also citizens, SMEs, public administrations publish their data on the data marketplace, and so that everyone can take advantage of it, and even these SMEs would have revenues for publishing their data. In addition to the marketplace, we are developing a data valorization APP, which is inspired in the stock exchange and facilitates the estimation of the value of data. This means that a data provider can look here how many customers are interested in the data, how much of them have bought it, how they are using them in real time, and so on. The benefits are multiple for the different stakeholders of the marketplace. So for data providers, they can exploit their already existing data and generate new business opportunities. For data consumers, they will have a wider data offer to develop new services for the city. In addition, they can monitor the quality of the services they are receiving and develop new services without making an expensive IoT infrastructure investment. In the case of the city, also the municipality will have a marketplace that is self-sustainable with cost reduction for the municipality. The city will have benefits also with new services, and in addition will generate new business opportunities to the urban ecosystem. This is an overview of the components of our architecture. I will not get in detail, but you can see that we have a FIWARE-based architecture where the sensors can inject the data in our context broker. And through the new DLT services and components that we have integrated through token, we can notarize the dataset acquisition, the queries to the context broker, and the status of the response of this context broker. And in addition, we can store the terms and conditions and service level agreement for further smart contract execution. So we can conclude that the municipality will tractorize this marketplace, will be an actor of it, but it will not necessarily be the main actor. It will enable a transparent solution and incentivize new stakeholders to participate. As I have already said, it has following benefits like the increment in the offer of the datasets, the generation of new services without investment in new infrastructures, and a marketplace self-sustainable, with the end goal of fostering new business models based on data economy, which are aligned with the spirit of the EU in the digital agenda. So if you would like to know more about this use case, you can take a look to our IoT data marketplace, which is available there. You have there the URL. Or you can request a demo if you want to have more information, or you are interested in providing data, consuming data, or even replicating this solution in other cities. You can request it through the token project webpage. Or here also you have here, my email. You can contact me directly by email. Okay. So this is all from my side. Thank you very much.
Hello. Okay, so we welcome our speaker from Energy Wallet, Jeroen Wester. Go ahead.
Thank you for this short introduction. Yes, we'll put my first slide on. Yes, I think that's this one. We were asked to, do I need to stick around this place, or can I walk around? I won't leave the room. I'm going to talk about the Energieknip, the energy wallet. It's a pilot that took place in the Netherlands. Knip is wallet in Dutch. And the reason why we were asked to give this presentation was that we might be a larger scale blockchain project. And there is a little of hesitation in my line there, because I'm not aware of all the blockchain projects that are out there. But we tried to launch this project full scale within the city. We're talking about 50,000 houses in this city. And we have some lessons learned to share with you. Not everything went well. Some things were quite all right, but we also have some remarks to make. Okay, who are we? Oh no, first of all, I will give you a clear situation. Then I will talk about a proposed solution, give you some results in numbers, and then the lessons learned. So you have to stick around until the orange block is there. The actors in this play are the city of Emmen, based in the north of the Netherlands. That's one of the most beautiful pictures that I found of the city of Emmen. The blockchain lab Drenthe, this is the contractor in this project. I'm a member of this blockchain lab, founded by a couple of companies. We put our free time in it to see what blockchain could really mean for us or for the city. And this is part of an Interreg North Sea project, BLING, Blockchain in Government. So by now you must have all guessed, okay, we have an enemy in this room. I'm not part of your project. I'm not part of FIWARE or Token or whatever. So I'm a side project. The major problem: cities in the Netherlands are confronted with the following question. Once a year, they get an energy budget that they have to distribute among their households in their city. And that is, you have to know that's only a small budget per house. It's 50 euros. So every household in the city can make use of these 50 euros. What can you do with that budget? With a budget, you can go to a local hardware store. You can say, okay, this is my budget, and now give me an energy-saving products box. So these stores prepare boxes, and then with the money given to you by the government, you can get such a box. And then you have some things that you can adjust to your house, and then you can hopefully have a lower you have to spend less money on energy. That's the whole idea. But the problem is actually here below. In the old days, the city would print coupons, vouchers, and they would put them in an envelope, and they would go to every house in the city, and they would put the envelope in the mail, and then usually this would happen. So people would get the voucher, and they would forget about it, or they would throw it away. And that resulted in the fact that only 16% of the people in that city would actually use the money that was given out by the government. So let me talk you through these numbers because they are quite interesting. So in the year 2021, the budget provided by the central government to the city was 120,000 euros. They printed the vouchers for the amount of 2.4 million euros, put them all in envelopes and put them in every house. But only 19,000 euro, a little bit more, was spent at local stores. So the persons in the municipality that were given the task to do this job say, okay, this is an awful project because I have this money and I can't spend it with the people that live in my city. It also meant that only 6% of the households were engaged in this whole process. So there was no reach to get to these houses. And then the last column in this slide, the municipality actually didn't know anything about the people spending this money. They didn't know what they spent it for. They didn't know anything about their situation. So there was actually a zero knowledge situation there. I come to talk about that later on. Yeah. Before we started this project, there were a few additional requirements. The first, there was the requirement to stay away from the GDPR laws. When you are into that and you collect personal data, you have a huge burden on your project. So right up front, we made a decision to stay away from that and to not collect any personal data, which was quite a challenge, but I will talk you through that. We had to realize it in a fairly quick time. So we had 6 months for preparation, and then we had a few months to build it, and then it had to be rolled out in the city. We had to distribute money in a fair way, meaning that parts of the city that were in need of that money should get it first. It's only a limited budget, as you have already guessed, and people who are more richer in the city would get it later on, with a lower chance of really getting the money. And there was the need to spend all the money distributed only at local stores, so not in the stores of another city. So you had to be in that city. And the last one is very interesting because they were talking to us and they knew, oh, these are these blockchain people. They're going to come with a blockchain proposition. And they were very scared that we would come up with a proposition that would cost a huge amount of energy. They were very scared of that. So we did need to do a lot of talking to convince them that we had a blockchain solution that didn't use a lot of energy. Okay, you're still with me, are you? Okay, the proposed solution. First thing we did is that we gave every household, every home in the city, we gave it a wallet. And we did so by printing IDs like that, QR codes, which actually is seed for a wallet, but nobody knows. And we put that in an envelope. We actually did the same thing as they did before. We put it in an envelope and we gave it to people in the house. And we did not know, as organizers of this project, what QR code was given to what house. So they were randomly distributed. The only thing that we knew is that a kind of range of QR codes were distributed in a certain area, in a neighborhood. I think that's the proper English word. We call it the wijk, a part of the city. So every QR code generated a wallet, and it did so in an app. Here you see a screenshot of this app. The app is very, very simple. You can answer the questions. These questions are energy behavior related. So like, do you close your curtains in winter? Do you put down the put down the heating when it is not necessary? And we have a list of, I think, 45 questions that we have in this app, and people can answer these questions, and when they answer the questions, they get points. And they see a balance of points. Points are actually money, and with these points they can go to a local store and get the energy saving products box for these points. When they do the transaction, the points balance is lower, of course, and the point balance of the store owner is higher. I think that's more or less it. Yeah? Okay. To sum up the process, this is actually the complete process. So here on top, you have the city of Emme, which is the initiator of this whole process. And the city of Emme triggers this process by having a budget in points ready, money. And then residents, they share points for answers. So they give answers, and then points come into the balance of the home. But residents share products for points with hardware stores. And then hardware stores share points for money with the city of Emme. So then you have the whole loop closed. To distribute in a fair way. Well, we divided the whole municipality in a number of neighborhoods, and they were labeled, and we made, together with the people of the municipality, an ordered list. And then there was really people who had to distribute all the envelopes with the QR codes, the seats of the wallets, and they were given out first here and then there. And so we had a coverage which gradually, during time, expanded. But the thing, the last bullet on this slide sums it up. The first come, first served principle of this project, in combination with the fact that you have a limited budget, is a challenge. Nobody, until this time, nobody in the municipality believed that we would be able to spend the budget completely. Okay, but then this happened. So we started in January 22, and Here you see a graph of the number of activations of these wallets. And at this time, the first batch of points, 150,000 euros, were distributed. And that complete budget was allocated in the wallets of the households, of the homes, in, I think, 2 weeks, something like that. So then you could see, everyone in the city could see, that the balance of the municipality would be 0, and that all the points would be in the wallets of the residents. At this time, here you see drop the line, so people stopped installing these, the apps or activate their apps, and that's logically because there wasn't anything to gain. But there's another graph, and then you can see that our help desk exploded somehow in that time, because everybody started to call the city and say, hey, what is this? I want to have my 50 euros and I can't get to them. So there was a big problem. We organized a problem for the city. So we were not the most popular people at that time. They started discussing internally, and around here, they made a decision to put another 150k euros in this project, coming from some other bag of money available in this city, I don't know where. And so we did the whole trick again. The data that I'm sharing to you is actually about the first part, not about the second part. But the fact that they added a new round of money into the project was actually one of the success things that happened in this project. Okay. Oh yeah, you see, oops, a planning mistake. What happened here is there was no money available at the city side, but the people who distributed the envelopes started by mistake distributing the envelopes with the QR codes again. So we saw, so our help desk exploded and people could not get their points. All right. Here you see the sales per store. We had 10 hardware stores, quite large ones in the city connected to this. And you see that their sales in this project is considerable. It's always very hard to say if this is high or low. But you see also large differences between the stores. And that's interesting. Some stores, like number 6 and number 10, they adapted their sales process on this project. So they started providing services to residents in the city to install the app, to convert the points, to get these energy saving boxes. So they helped the municipality with the distribution in the project. Okay, now we return to the first, to the numbers that I showed you before. You see on the second line, you see the numbers that I showed to you. And when we compare them to the numbers that we had, we see some improvements. Our budget was slightly higher than in the previous year, but the budget distributed was also exactly the budget that was available. We didn't have to print additional money that wasn't used as in the previous way. We saw that the amount of money spent at the hardware stores is considerably higher than in this case. That's cool. So people did not only collect the points, they also spend them at the hardware stores. So we have a conversion ratio here of 94%, and the engagement also increased. It was up to 20%. But then we also got an enormous amount of data points collected from all these people using this app. So now we have some insight in how their energy behavior really is. And that gives the municipality a way of planning their policies in a better way than they could before. All right. How my time? 5 minutes. Lessons learned. Okay. I will talk you through. This is a lot of text, of course, but let's start on the top. There was a sense of urgency in this project. So people knew that the time that they had to install the app and to answer the questions and to collect the points was limited. And also that the budget was limited. So there was a kind of rush. So on Facebook, people posted on that, did you already install the Energieknip? Did you already answer the questions? I went to that store. So people were pushing. And I don't know how we created that. Maybe it was by the architecture of the project or how it was, but I don't know. But you like this sense of urgency because then people are pushed to do things. The second thing is that the hardware stores were actively involved in the project by creating appealing energy-saving products boxes. They were photographed in a nice way so that you could actually see what was in them. So on display on the website that you can access through the app, you could see products that you could like. And every hardware store had a different offering in that. So there was really something to shop for. It was not some non-interesting product. No, it was interesting. We think that helped. We did a lot on helping users up to the level that people called us and said, okay, I want to install an app, but I have never installed an app. How should I do that? And up to the level of, no, hold your phone in the other direction because you turned it upside down. So we were prepared to help people in a rather extensive way in order to get it done. I think that we tried to be a nice project with regard to privacy. So we did not collect any data and we did not sell it to Facebook or to Google. And we made that clear in the app and on the website that we do not do that and that we do not like that. This is more or less a bit theoretical. You had to earn points, so you had to do something in order to get to the points. While in the previous situation, you would just get a voucher that you could use. Maybe that you had to do something was one of the good points in this project. And the last thing, and that's interesting in a blockchain track in this event, we did not talk about technology. And until now, you didn't hear me talk about technology at all. And I'm a technologist. I know quite a bit about how this project is created. And I love talking about that too. But actually, that's not something you should do. So we did not talk about, hey, this is crypto money, or these are crypto coins, or this is anything related to money. So we skipped that. So we stick to the thing, these are points. And so that made it, from a technology perspective, a less intrusive project, I think. Okay, a few tips. Yes? We underestimated by far the need of very precise communication. But that's not blockchain specific, that's project specific. You always need to be very precise. But we as first timers, we were not capable of thinking what the impact would be of precise communication. And here you see an example. For instance, we told them, come and get your energy saving box at a local store. And people interpreted that there was an individual box for them at the store available. And when the points ran out, and they could not get that box, they were pissed, so to say. So we had to learn how to do that. Last slide, Pinja.
Lessons learned in convincing municipalities. It was hard. They are usually very oriented in balance and checks and balances. So they want to organize a project, they will have specific people monitoring processes and see that it goes well. But now we have a blockchain implementation of a points, a balance thing, that does the checking itself. And that's hard to explain. So actually you need to explain to these people, you should trust my software because it is better in monitoring the whole process than you are. And that's not a very good message for people to hear because they worry about their jobs. But it was possible. We did it a number of times. The explanation, okay. Oh yeah, what's the role of blockchain here? Yeah, that was actually my last slide. Yeah, okay. So not talking about technology, but now talking a little bit about technology. I think the role of blockchain in this project is that we try to create an implementation in which the implementation itself generates trust and less fraud. So there was definitely an incentive for people to cheat in this project. If you could manipulate your account balance in this thing, then you would have endless energy-saving boxes coming to you in this project. You cannot buy other things, by the way, but that would be very interesting. So having something in place in which you cannot do that is a good thing. The second point is also important. By automating things, by automating the checks and balances in this thing, we have a lower cost in the process. So if you can do that in a right way, that means that your operating costs in your projects, in your blockchain-related projects, will be lower. And the last thing is more maybe open for the discussion. If you have access to these kinds of software, you can make communities more self-reliant, or their ability to organize themselves could be higher. That's it. Yeah. Okay.
You, Jeroen. I actually need another chair, so if I could steal your chair. Thank you for all the presenters from the use cases. Very exciting to hear everything that you guys have been up to. And as the audience might have noticed, we didn't have really time for questions. Our thinking was that we would join in a panel discussion, but at the same time, I kind of want to open up the room during the discussion so that those who have also worked on different projects or are interested in them, you can ask your questions during the panel. So if you do have something in your mind, keep it in your mind right now. But maybe we'll start off first with a couple of questions and discussion with the panelists. So please, come on up. Great, and maybe we'll have some microphones for the panelists as well. We have two, so we'll be distributing them, by the person who has a turn to talk. And for myself, my name is Johannes Anttila. I am from the think tank Demos Helsinki as well, and come from the token project. So I've had the pleasure of working with the token use cases already, and now also meeting with Jeroen and hearing about Energy Knip, which is a wonderful use case, and it was very exciting to also hear a little bit about more in detail what your successes have been as well. So in this panel, I thought that we would talk about operational successes, challenges, and learnings, as many of you already did. And then since this is the Token Policy Observatory, that we would also move a little bit towards policy and talk about what needs to change in terms of policy or regulation on the city level, municipality level, national level, maybe even on the EU level. And then rounding off this discussion with talk a little bit on scaling and next steps. I know that there's already something in each one of your minds related to that. So we'll kind of end on a high note and talk about the plans for the future. But I thought, just starting off, each one of you described your use cases in detail, and I hope now also the audience knows them well. maybe I'd like to take a little round of one success in your use case so far. What would you say has been the best thing that has happened in the use case? Maybe we'll go from over Jeroen and then go this way.
I think the most important success is closing the whole loop and being capable of having the money somewhere coming from the government and going through the houses, going through the stores and bringing it back to the government again in the form of answers and on questions. So I would go for, in short, being capable of organizing a full-sized pilot.
Sounds good. The numbers were impressive, going up from 16% to 94%, and also having the predictability of the different funding models. So, very good. How about Linda?
I would say with ours, it was the user experience. So we had a very positive user experience. Like I was saying in my presentation, we sent out questionnaires to the users, and over 80% found it really easy, which was one of the things we were concerned about with new technology. Sometimes it can be kind of a slow uptake. So I think that was really a good thing, and for us to go up from that and work from that. So it was great.
Yeah, sounds good. I think especially we can all share, and maybe if you've worked on technology projects before, that the kind of knowledge and skills of users and the ability, as Jeroen was also saying in his presentation, it's very difficult to teach new technology and have the skills and the kind of ease of use now to design those. So I think that's a good success. Laura, how about you?
Yes, I would say that our best success would be to bring knowledge to the data consumption, because before it was like a black box. We offer data. We didn't have any information about how this data was consumed, who was consuming it, if anyone was consuming this data, what kind of interest did it generate. So now we have knowledge, and this gives us the opportunity to know which kind of data is more interesting for SMEs, where it's interesting to make more investments, and generate also these opportunities for businesses to enter in the data economy.
Yeah, and clearly also having the traceability of the data then to see further where it kind of goes. Costas, how about you?
I would say the main success of our use case is the implementation of procurement system and e-voting system based on blockchain. Because it is something very complicated to implement based on smart contracts and self-sovereign identity.
Yeah, and you kind of have in the use case itself two different uses, so kind of
yes, two different use cases, yes, and based on blockchain, both of them.
Yeah, and kind of combining those in an interesting way. How about you, Joris?
I think in our use case, it's the bridge between a city and commercial parties. I think that's they need to go hand in hand, and that's something that we realized where I'm very proud of.
Sounds good. Each one of them, has also had users. I think, as you might all know, and as was brought up by also some of you, I think one of the challenges related to distributed ledger technology projects, but also kind of other technology projects, is oftentimes finding, well, the right fit of technology, of course, but also users. So in an OECD review paper of different government blockchain projects that was published a couple of years ago, one of the key findings was that oftentimes these pilot projects don't have enough users for us to be able to actually learn enough about how those users behave, be they private sector users, citizens, or then government itself. So I was wondering how you had found this kind of attraction of users, and did you have a difficulty with this as well, or did it seem very easy? Joris, do you want to?
Yeah, I can maybe start briefly. I think I can relate to what Jeroen was saying. Indeed, in the beginning, it's hard work to convince a city. It's hard work to convince also a commercial party to do something that has not done before. And it's certainly in this type of project we are really having a researchy topic. It's doing it for a first time that should inspire the next one. So that's also where I'm very curious for the next steps, for at least for our use case as well. if we can find other adopters, other cities, other commercial parties to jump on the, how you say it, on the wagon, or to use it as well.
How about Kostas? You had directly polls that are directed towards citizens. Have you had in the pilot project, did you find citizens were willing to kind of participate in those polls, or what did you find?
Generally, it is not easy to find users, generally speaking, but in our use case, something important is that there is a memorandum of understanding between CERT and the municipality of Katerini, so there is collaboration between them. So it is easier to find users.
And how about Laura? I know that Santander is one of the leading kind of smart cities in the world, so obviously they have an incentive maybe also to be on board this sort of project. But did you have a difficulty convincing the municipality to be on board?
In fact, we have collaborated with the Santander municipality for the last decades, so it was easy to involve. In fact, it was a proposal of both institutions, university and Santander municipality, and maybe the more challenging is to attract users to the marketplace we have already developed. We have the advantage that the municipality already offers. It's data sets collected, so that we have a critical mass of data already in the marketplace in this first piloting phase. But now we have to make dissemination and attract different kind of users. We have already citizens that work groups of citizens that used to collaborate with the municipality in these technology projects that probably are willing to test them with their own IoT devices, and surely slowly this will grow and get up to SMEs and so on.
How do you convince businesses, SMEs, to kind of put their own data on the market?
I think it will be a slow process, because this needs a change in the mind of how SMEs work, because they are used to work very close as silos, we can say. But we think that if they saw that they can have revenues and they can know about the interest that the data generate, they will participate slowly.
Yeah. I think also, Linda, in your case, and then Joris, you're all trying to attract SMEs to kind of be on board in your pilots. Yeah. And I think obviously each one of you, maybe you have a different value proposition than Laura's use case, but how have you found trying to convince SMEs that what this technology is? Do they understand it? Then what this use case is? Yeah. Is it easy?
Well, with us, so we ran a pilot between March and June, like I was saying, with a Smart for All open call, which is a Horizon 2020 open call. So our users had incentive to come to the app and create their profile, because there's potentially money at the end of it, you know. We had a little bit of a slow start, but I think maybe that wasn't related to the application. But in the end, we had a lot of applicants there. So from that side, I think maybe the incentive, because there's money at the end, is not so hard. The users, they didn't know about the technology. You know, like Jordan was saying, with his project, they didn't know there was blockchain behind it. So all the users want is an easy experience. You know, they want to get to the end without too much obstacles. On the other hand, the other user we have is a funding body, you know, so we're looking for other funding bodies who could take advantage of this technology for their own processes. That is a little bit harder to get, because, you know, there's a learning process there. It's something different to what they normally use. So they have to move away from the technology that they normally use. So that's going to be a bit more of a challenge. For our use case as Funding Box, because we are in the business of distributing funding, we're testing this pilot ourselves so that we can learn from it and that we can add those learnings or provide those learnings to other third-party funding bodies when they want to try it, you know. So, but that part is a little bit harder for sure.
I want to get back to the funder in just a bit, but maybe ask yours here. Did you talk with your SMEs that they're in a blockchain project, or were you also trying to hide your true colors?
It's a bit of the one of the learnings as well. Sorry. It's also one of the learnings that I got. Same as Jeroen. don't open the door by saying, hey, this is a blockchain project, it's not going to work. But talk about, I think what's more important is value drivers. What are business drivers? How could the technology, without going into detail, enable their business? And that's when we started doing that we got traction.
So there's a clear value proposition also in your case for the SMEs to be on board. You don't have to talk about the technology, but there's also kind of, well, access/money involved. So there's
exactly, yeah. In their case, it's a competitive advantage. Huh? If you're connected to a system, to a city that can give you extra access, you can have higher fill ratios. You can drive wider into the city than your competitor, which is in a logistics landscape interesting.
Yeah. I wanted to get back to the funder because I think, Jeroen, what you were saying was that you had to explain to the municipality many times why this is that, and they were like, this might change our processes, and that's obviously an initial investment into a use case which you might not be so sure about what it's about. It's this weird technology called DLT or blockchain. So just wanted to kind of riff off Linda there onto you, that how did you then end up convincing the municipality and the civil servants that this is something worth it and you should do it even though you have to learn new things and change your processes?
Yeah, well, it was a process that took some time. And to give you an example of what gives time, when you talk to the financial department of a city, they have all kinds of processes in place in which they monitor their financial processes, because that's the reason why they exist. And they do a pretty good job, because otherwise they would have been fired earlier on. And now we come and we say, okay, we have this new project, and we didn't talk about technology, but the word blockchain might have fallen during these talks, and say, okay, this technology is capable of checking itself. Well, then somebody from the department looks at you and says, that's magic, that cannot be true, or that's fraudulent. Then I might have a liability with your project. So before you can, then you have to give examples on how that works, and you have to convince the people that it works. I think we did a pretty good job there. But then the biggest challenge is not explaining that this blockchain technology can really do the trick, but is how to get data in and data out. So the municipality had to fund 150,000 euros for this project. How would that money get into our project, and where was it then in their systems? So maybe the time spent on explaining that blockchain technology is a really good technology in checking all these things, more time was spent on interfacing with the project. I found that the hardest part. That took the most of the time.
How about anybody else? Have you had to convince civil servants of what blockchain technology is and how it's useful, or has it just gone by?
Regarding our use case, generally civil servants in Greece and civil servants generally are resistant to changes because they have a lack of motivation, or maybe even a lack of technological skills. But generally, because of the memorandum of understanding between CERT and Municipality of Katerini, the civil servants of Municipality of Katerini have to cooperate, and we cooperate very good with them.
Is there trust between kind of those developing the technology and then the civil servants, or how does that relationship?
Yes, and there is a co-design. So we have implemented the procurement system based on the needs of Municipality of Katerini.
Maybe this code. Yeah.
And yes, and we always take feedback for the new versions.
Yeah, this co-design, I think, is something that has come up also often in the token project, of how can we involve kind of these different stakeholders, one of which is obviously the civil servants in many of these cases. And maybe, I know, again, returning to Santander and how you have had a long cooperation. So I was wondering, Laura, if you could tell us what your kind of experiences or good learnings from working with?
Yes, in the case of Santander, Santander municipality has an innovation department where they are always very proactive to this kind of innovations, but behind you have also civil servants that are also quite close to changes. But in fact, if you talk them about blockchain, they don't know about this technology, and in fact, it doesn't matter. They have some needs that they want to be covered, and they want a technology that covers it. If it's blockchain and DLTs, this is perfect. But they want to have an easy interface, a user-friendly interface, and to have this technology hidden behind it.
All right. Maybe to Linda, I know that you've been looking for these funding partners, and to return to this kind of idea of co-design or something, then do you think that it's something that the funders are afraid of changing the processes, or do you think this is too heavy, or they don't understand the technology, or what's your take on the difficulties?
Maybe when you talk about efficiency, like Jeroen saying, maybe people would be afraid that they might lose their jobs, you know? Like what I was saying, what I found, or what we found, is that we get a lot of interest from the private sector in using this because they see it as an easy way to find startups, you know, and an easy way to manage their funding process and also manage the deal afterwards, you know. So probably efficiency maybe attracts that market a little bit more. But as for attracting public funding bodies, that's something we still need to work on, and not create fear from efficiency, but you know, that it actually will help process in the long run.
Let's hope. Maybe still on kind of co-design and stakeholders. Obviously, all of you have had civil servants and kind of government or public administration, but also SMEs, and of course, many of these use cases affect other stakeholders as well. So I was wondering if anybody has good lessons or tips for others who might be thinking about how to involve stakeholders at different processes and how to make kind of inclusive the design and commissioning of these technologies.
Stop talking about technology in that case. And I think that's a very important tip. Because before you know, you are explaining for over an hour about smart contracts or blockchain nodes hosted somewhere. And when you talk about these things, then people are immediately shut off. They will not listen to you. So you have to talk about what you did in your presentation, is that you talk about the user experience, how easily you would go through a number of fields and have your application send in. And I think that is what people like. So talk about the functionality of the things that you try to realize, and see blockchain for granted, or as a discussion between specialists that like to talk about nodes, but not users. So that's my take on this.
Yeah, language matters, and also kind of not shutting people out through the use of that very technological language. Any other takes on how to keep stakeholders on board?
Not sure if it's keeping them on board. I think it's just creating like a safe environment where you can conduct these type of tests and experiments as well. Because you enter or you want to do a project, and people that what you're doing, then you're changing people, their behavior in the end, and that's what people don't like. You need to comfort them that the tests in the first phase that you'll evaluate, and that you're not taking away their job, that you're enabling their other capabilities that they have, but that's something that they want to experience slowly. I think that's what my recommendation would be.
Yeah. Did Laura have a thought as well?
Yes, okay, so from our experience from different projects, what we always do that seems to work is to start piloting with a reduced number of users. Maybe first with the internal people from the university and the municipality, later on a reduced number of external users, and take feedback from each one of these iterations, so that one by one making it bigger, the group, and taking feedback from each one of the iteration and improving the development.
Yeah, and having a sort of continuous cycle. Yeah, that sounds good. I was interested maybe a bit about citizens as well. I think both Kostas in your use case and also in your use case, citizens are an important part of that. And you, Jeroen, used a phrase called distributing fairly, which I thought was very interesting, because that obviously brings into mind that kind of these projects have varied consequences, and that citizens also have different capabilities in how they can access technology or how they can access certain parts of these use cases. For you, so for example, who is able to vote with this thing? For you, who is able to kind of access this energy, knip this wallet, and does that have an impact on kind of who we're making these projects for? Obviously, the municipalities or the cities have a certain obligation to be fair, and I was glad that that was included. But I was sort of interested if either one of you have views on who uses these applications that you've created. Because you did say that you don't want to collect the data, there is some sort of initial planning for how to do that, and then I don't know, in Kostas, in your case, if there have been considerations for who is able to vote through their capabilities to vote.
Yes, until now, our use case is in pilot phase, but not citizens have started piloting e-voting, but training sessions will take place in order to be able to enable citizens to use the platform, the voting. Sure, for me and for municipality of Katerina, training sessions are very important.
Good. Yeah, so seeing citizens also as stakeholders.
So then all citizens will be able to register and use e-voting platform.
How about Jeroen?
Yeah, I think back to the planning things that we had in this project, where we from the technology side, we thought, okay, this is an easy peasy project. We're going to distribute all these QR codes in one batch over the complete city. And then we have these batches per neighborhood, but at the same time, so that everyone has a fair chance of accessing this money. And that was typically the view of a technical person who doesn't know what is happening in the city. So people from the municipality said, no, we're not going to do that. That's not the way we're going to make an order in this distribution, because that's more fair than distributing it all over the city. Because they knew that the higher income parts of the city would have better access to these apps, would be faster in installing that apps, and would then be having a bigger access to that money than people with lower parts of the city with a lower income. And we could not have predict that, but I think that's true. So they helped us in order to get a more fair process. We were unaware.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent example also how kind of sharing knowledges that these people who are maybe more technologically savvy and doing the application or like the technological solution might also need the kind of societal or social information that's embedded in the civil servants or the public administration.
Can I just ask Jeroen an additional question
Sure,
on that?
go ahead.
Do you know anything about the age groups of the people who signed up to this? You know, you said you didn't collect any personal information at all, but was there anything? Do you have any idea? Because I know, say, for example, my parents, if they receive something like that in the post, they wouldn't scan it, you know? But just wondering.
Yeah, it's a very good question. I was thinking about my mother too, yeah. But and I don't have the complete list of questions in my mind. But I think we have a question there about ages, and it would be very interesting to see if it would be evenly distributed over all these. I'm afraid we have to do all these analysis on that data. We still have to do that.
Yeah, so right, so even though you had the wallet solution that doesn't connect personal data with who is actually spending the credit, you still do through the survey, you get kind of data on those who are trying to redeem it as well.
But we don't sell it to Google.
Yeah, important. I think that might be a tip for everyone here in the room. Laura, did you have a point?
Okay, yes. In our use case, it's obviously that it's not open for all the citizens because you need some skills, some interest in IoT data, you know. But in fact, what we do is some workshops for those the citizens that are interested in, and we show them how to build their own IoT sensors and how to upload their data to our context broker and how they can publish later on their data in the marketplace.
Yeah.
So it's through workshops, I think that you can reach interested people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good. And I think it's also super important when thinking of kind of funding and the EU or whoever is granting funding kind of to allow room for that as well. Or if it's the municipality itself, that you can't only have the technological solution, but then you need these workshops, you need to bring together different people to have kind of a more socio-technical solution to a problem and also be able to build those kind of capabilities as well. Did you have a point, Jaakko, still? No. Oh, okay. I wanted to just maybe open up for the room a little bit. I'm not sure what kinds of folks we have here, but I wanted to maybe if you could raise your hand if you have been involved in a technological project involving DLT and public administration or government. Stefano, raise your hand. Karen as well, okay. All right. We have lots of folks. Do you share, kind of, we've been talking about successes, but also challenges. Do these kind of resonate with you? Do they sound familiar? Or is there something you'd like to add? Or a question that you might have? Over there. Let me bring you the microphone. Thanks. Or thank you, Karen. And if you could introduce yourself as well, if you'd like.
Hi everybody, I'm Xavi Chao, I'm the CEO of Funding Box, so I've been involved directly. But I have a question for Jerome, and first of all, congratulations for your presentation and for the project, it's really, really interesting. You mentioned on your presentation that one of the topics that was needed to be covered with the municipality at the beginning was convince them about the energy cost of using blockchain, if I understood right. So I'm curious about how you manage that. Until what extent do you think that being transparent in the energy footprint of using the technology for solving this type of problems becomes relevant for adoption based on your experience with this project or with any other related with distributed ledger technologies?
Thank you for the question. Johan, do you want to answer?
Yes, thank you for the question, yes. The answer is we based the blockchain part of this project on the IOTA network, and you can see that this has two advantages. One of us, the first one is that the energy cost in this network is very low, and that means that is caused by that the proof of work or the consensus mechanism used in this framework is a different one compared to traditional blockchain systems. Looked it up, the transaction costs are even lower than that of MasterCard or Visa, something like that. And that's a very convincing argument for the municipality. Okay, you can do that. The second thing that is very convenient for this network is that it is a feeless network, so we don't have to pay transaction costs in this network. It's actually not the case in the project that we have, because we have a private tangle here, so we are not on the main net yet. But imagine that this project will grow, then you will need to have an answer for all the fee costs that you have in the major blockchain networks. So I would definitely advise to you, go for a low consumption blockchain framework and see to that you can manage the cost of fees for transactions in that network. Did that answer your question? All right.
Thanks. Anything else at the moment from the audience? If not, no worries.
I suppose easy, yes. Because, for instance, in our use case in Santander, the immutability issue was clearly colliding with the GDPR issue. And then they implement some workaround that is in order to avoid that personal data were going to the immutability of the blockchain, because this is against GDPR actually. So how you implemented that? Because one thing that you stressed during your presentation was exactly immutability of the data.
Yeah, I think the answer lies in how you formulate your question, because you know that data stored on a blockchain is immutable, and you could be, for instance, forced by GDPR to remove personal data that you previously stored on the blockchain. Then the advice is, do not store personal data. And that makes your life a little bit easier. But this will limit the number of projects that you can do enormously, so that this is definitely something that will not hold. So we need to come up with a way to either adapt the technology of blockchain technology to this GDPR immutability battle that's going on, or we need to do something on a GDPR front to be more, how do you say that, permissive on the data that is stored somewhere. So it's a legal and a technical battle that are fought on in the same time. Did that answer your question?
Well, partially, in the sense that yes, of course, this is an answer, but well, I am on the thinking set of people that says technology shall not force organizations, should be the other way around. Technology at the service of organizations, not the other way around. So what you are somehow proposing as a kind of solution is to still see whether GDPR shall be relaxed in some aspects in order to allow technologies to work, which, yes, is also something possible, but we are saying, okay, technology first, then social aspects.
Yeah,
you understand what I mean?
Yeah, I immediately understand what you say. Stop me if I'm talking too long, but this is a very good philosophical debate, actually, because you can say, okay, organization first and technology should follow, or should support. All right, but that's not the case. Technology in itself is a force which you have to deal with. It makes things possible which are not really realized in legal or in organizations. So, and that will also, that will always be kind of a battle. Sometimes technology will be in the lead, sometimes the demands of organizations will be in the lead. So I do not agree with you that you can only say, okay, technology should support and organizations are in the lead.
Well, that's social. Yeah, this is an interesting dynamic that I think many people have written many books about as well. So, but maybe I wanted to stay on the topic of, we mentioned kind of energy needs as one constraint, let's say, of DLT, and then also these legal/technical, the interplay there. So maybe I wanted to drill down a little bit more on that. So specifically with the DLT parts of your use cases, what kinds of challenges, be they energy or legal or technical, what has that specific use of DLT, what kinds of challenges have you come up to due to the use of that technology in the use cases?
Okay, maybe I can start. As Stefano has mentioned, we had to deal with the GDPR because of the immutability of data in the DLT. It's completely impossible to register any personal data there. So we had to find alternative mechanisms and use, for example, tokens and so on. And instead of registering the DLT, the data itself, making hashes, and so that protect the personal data from this DLT. So that the end users can have the rights to modify or to delete the personal data any time on the marketplace.
Yeah. All right, GDPR mentioned a second time. Anything else from anyone?
I think it's just like the others have said. It's about not storing personal data on DLT. And then, making sure that when you design a system, you design it in a way that if a user wants to leave, that they can leave and all the data is deleted. So also with us, because they apply with OnePass, so that you can apply with your data in OnePass and apply to an open call in another system. There's some GDPR issues, about transferring data from one system to another, and you need to inform the user, and so that everything is clear, So, like throughout the design of this project, we've had to think about all of those things and involve legal and make sure that we have everything clear and, that the user is protected at the end of the day, that the data is protected. So that has been one of the challenges for us.
Sounds similar. Yeah, go ahead, yours.
Yeah, I think two elements in our side. I think GDPR is the same because you're working with personal data in drop-off points. So there also the design was not take personal data into the blockchain. That's one. And I think the second one is more on the process level. Since in our case it's about fines, so it's about not getting a fine. So it's including as well the legal department from the city side, involving them heavily on how the process could be designed from the beginning. That's something that we did from the beginning, and that helped us a lot as well. So yeah, that was a barrier, but we enabled it rather faster, including them rather soon.
Yeah. I think maybe, or we had a short chance to discuss yesterday also kind of how it's only not when you start using DLT, but also when you're scoping the project itself. So maybe this relates back to the discussion of, is it technology leading a project? Is it the needs of an organization leading a project? And then kind of having honest discussions with with the users, with the different stakeholders, that is this technology actually doing what it needs to do? If there are obvious conflicts with GDPR, or if there's obvious conflicts with its energy use, then maybe kind of an assessment of whether the pros outweigh the cons. So maybe that's just something that came to mind as well. I don't know if somebody wants to comment or add on to that.
Yeah, I'm Switzerland in this story. I think there is a little bit of, how do you say it, truth will be in the middle, because I do see a lot of value in what Stefano is saying in user first. I already also wrote it on the deck. However, I also understand, and that's basically also the project that we're doing, is exploring what capabilities technology can be, and that's then the other way around. So yeah, that's my take.
Thank you, Switzerland. Any other countries wanting to have a turn? All right, cool. I know that I also said that we would talk a little bit about scaling, but maybe we'll reduce, with the time that we have left, the talk of scaling to hearing what your next steps are in the project. What's going to happen next, and how can we follow your journey? Maybe we'll go from there and then head on out.
The next step in this project will be that the municipality is trying to expand the scope of the project and tries to see, okay, now we're talking about energy budgets, could we also distribute other budgets or other functionality with this same app? So that would restrict the amount of users to the same level that we are now, but would be increase in functionality. And next to that, there are a number of other municipalities in the Netherlands that say, okay, me too, but we are in talks with them and it's not yet there.
Great. How about Linda?
So the next step, like I said, is maybe to try and find third-party funding bodies to use the application and pass on our learnings to them. And also we have started a new project called Beyond, which I mentioned in my presentation, where we're looking at how the use of issuing credentials and being able to get credentials can create kind of a trust framework between investors and startups. So I think it's a really good use of blockchain and self-sovereign identity and credential management. So that project is going to test that in a trusted environment, trusted ecosystem, and then pass on that learnings to public funding and to go beyond that ecosystem. So it's a really exciting project for OnePass for the next.
Sounds good. And I think if there's any funding bodies here present, then get in touch with Linda. Absolutely. Or on the stream. Laura, how about you?
So the next steps would be mainly now at the current state is the dissemination of what we have done and to find interested stakeholders in participating in our IoT data marketplace. Technologically, our next step would be to follow with the smart contract execution, so that service level agreements could be automatically be executed. And you asked also about the scaling. I think the scaling is important to grow in our city, but also the replicability is something that we have not talked about. But I think it's also important that other cities that could take our use case as a good practice, and they can replicate it in their cities. Yeah. And as the architecture of our solution is based on open source and FIWARE components, and I think it's easy to take advantage of this. We also follow the smart data models and so on, and I think it's interesting for other cities to be able to replicate it.
Yeah. It is highly replicable, so if there's interested early adopters, I highly suggest to book a demo with Laura as well, because it looks great and easy to use as well. Kostas.
Yes, regarding scalability, our aim is to have a solution that will be used in many municipalities of Greece in the future. Regarding next steps, we are preparing version 2 with new functionalities based on user feedback and the needs of municipality of Katerini. Regarding next steps, training sessions will continue, so as new actors will participate in the pilots, such as citizens, and yes, user feedback and measurements regarding KPIs.
Great, sounds like good steps. Joris, how about you? The last Switzerland.
Yeah, I think the follow-up project is for us the next step, where we will work on two things. First of all, other variables. So now we're focused on the local aspect, but I think cities have other variables as well that they want to translate in that same thought of dynamic access control, and an adoption with a real also commercial party from the very beginning. So that also scales faster because they have their networks of commercial parties involved, and it's in another city. It's not granted yet, but
great. But I think for each one of the use cases presented, so each one of the token use cases is offering demos, and of course we're all here for today and some for tomorrow as well. So grabbing people's sleeves, and I think Jeroen will also be very glad to talk to you about their experiences in Emmen. And yeah, so in the token project itself, use case evaluation is ongoing. Then we're also crafting a little bit of a toolkit for policymakers that'll be published before the end of the year. And we'll have one more Policy Observatory in November, looking kind of a round table for use cases and policymakers. So having this intimate session of sharing different knowledges and experiences from use cases such as these. And then we will be publishing briefing papers on these as well. So stay out and look out for those as well. And yeah, as I mentioned, the different token components are available, open source, and you can look at them. And you can also book a demo for the token use cases, so do that. And you saw the names over there. Me and my colleagues are also over here for the rest of the day and tomorrow as well. So you can also come talk to us, and Stefano, Karen, obviously as well. And yeah, you can order the token newsletter to stay in touch of all the different publications and events that are going on. There's a community under Funding Box Spaces where we have conversations such as these online. And what else? Follow Token on social media, and also all of us. Thank you for your time and all your questions as well. And I think it might be time for coffee. Great, lunch. Thank you.